Hello, my name is Bettina Zengő, and I did my presentation about CTE in the National Football League. So CTE is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, is a neurodegenerative disease found in people who have had multiple head injuries. So it have occurred in athletes in contact sports such as American football, soccer, rugby, or box. Its main symptoms are difficulty in thinking, impulsive behavior, depression, short-term memory loss, difficulty planning and carrying out tasks, emotional instability, substance abuse, and suicidal thoughts or behavior. So after these general traits, I would like to show you more details through the example of American football. The first mention of CTE was a disease in box players in the 1928 issue of the American Medical Association. And however, there was no further research on this topic until 2002, when a Nigerian forensic pathologist and neuropathologist called Bettina worked on the case of an American football player called Mike Webster, who died following unusual and unexplained behavior. In 2005, Amanda published these findings, which were titled as chronic traumatic encephalopathy in the National Football League player. And the NFL didn't believe him and dismissed all his researches, but he continued his work. And in 2012, he designed a technology called TOMARK, which detects this disease in people alive, because before this technology, only autopsy could show this disease in people's brain. So this is a TOMARK image. TOMARK uses a chemical tracer to bind to tau proteins, and tau proteins can then be seen on a PET scan. This is a PET scan, and in 2012, he used this technology to scan a former American football player called Fred McNeil, and he found evidences of CTE. So in this image, you can see that there's a control person and 5 NFL players, and all these little red marks symbolize the tau proteins. But what are tau proteins and what causes that disease? So let's go back to the basics and let's see a brain cell or neuron. It has 3 main parts: the cell body, the axon, and the axon terminal. But let's focus mainly on the axon, which is a long and spine-shaped thing, and that connects faraway cells in different parts of the brain. But there are 2 main problems with its structure. One is that the axon is the weakest point of the cell, so it can easily damage, and a damaged axon has trouble sending its signals, interfering with the brain's ability to do its job. The other problem is that almost everything the cell needs to function is made in the cell body, but a lot of that stuff needs to be used along the axon and axon terminal, and to get everything where it needs to go, the cell needs a transportation system. So, to distribute chemicals and other things throughout the cell, the neuron has a special transportation system built up of tiny tubes. These tubes, since these tubes are very small, they need help to their structure, and a special protein called tau keeps everything together by connecting to the outside part of the tube. And in healthy brains, tau proteins keep everything together, so the tubes are working well, and tubes help the cell functions and the brain works perfectly. But in diseased brains, tau proteins tau proteins can fall apart after a head injury, and under certain conditions, tau proteins can clump together, and after certain point, they start to spread over the surrounding parts of the brain, even without no further head injuries. So toe proteins have a specific sign in the brain. This is a brain size of Fred McNeil, and you can see that that the chamber of the brain, or with special words, it has a special sign. It's even larger than an average brain chamber, and the central nerve bounds are also damaged. So another example is the case of Aaron Hernandez. He died at the age of 27. He committed suicide, and after researchers did his autopsy, it was seen that he had a very severe case of CTE, which was the most severe ever discovered in a person his age. And that could affected his decision-making, cognition, and judgment. So he had a stage 3 CTE, which researchers have never seen in a brain younger than 46 years old. And he may have a genetic marker that makes people vulnerable to certain brain disease and could have contributed to how aggressively he formed but developed CTE. And also you can see his brain. So this is with special words, that ventricular enlargement and the atrophy of the fornix. But as I mentioned, this is the brain chamber, and this is just the central wall of the brain, and you can see a normal 27-year-old brain. So its treatment and prevention. There is no cure. Although Amalu has developed a technology, researchers saying that it's not possible to continue its usage because it's not reliable, and that's why some people think that helmets would be the perfect prevention and thing to avoid these serious injuries. But the thing is that helmets can't do anything to protect the brain, they just reduce the power of the impacts. And the most reliable helmets structure were copied from the woodpecker's cranial bone, as you can see there. This is a scanning electron microscope picture. And the woodpecker's brain is surrounded by a spongy cranial bone, and this helps them to keep their brain safe when they are working on a tree. And you can see that this transsexual picture of the helmet, and you can see the spongy sticks which are copied from that bird's cranial bone. Okay, the future of the CTE. The brain bank of the University of Boston is the largest tissue repository in the world focused on traumatic brain injuries and CTE. And they use donated brains from American football players, and they research these illnesses. And a few statistics: out of 111 examined former NFL players, 110 were neuropathologically diagnosed with CTE, and 91% of former college league players and 14 to 21% of high school league players were also affected with the early stages of CTE. And of course, families of NFL players call for those restrictions in all stages of football. And finally, I want to say my opinion on this issue through the example of rams. So rams are using their head like American footballs to fight with each other as a part of their courting ritual, and they have a special bone structure developed through the evolution, which helps them, which prevents them from brain injuries. However, American football players are also using their heads, but they haven't such an evolutionary advantage, and they are just still playing this silly game, and they get sick, and it's also detrimental for the society because they die an early death, and they are also require a special help, and they have such a disease. And so, in my point of view, NFL should make law restrictions in order to prevent players from such disease, and also it's very important to create a perfect medical background for the sport. So if the league don't take further steps, the sport will decline just as bullfighting. So thank you for your attention.